Qualcomm. Qualcomm is the company behind Snapdragon, the processors powering most flagship Android phones today. The brand dates back to late 2007 when the first Snapdragon chip shipped with a 1 GHz Scorpion CPU, a huge clock speed for its time. Since then, Qualcomm has quietly become the backbone of the Android world. If you've used a premium Android phone anytime in the last decade, chances are Snapdragon was doing all the hard work while you just enjoyed the smooth experience. Right now, at the top of the lineup is the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, the kind of chip you'd find in something like the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra. This is Qualcomm going all out, built on TSMC's 3nm process. It packs Oryon Gen 3 CPU cores, hitting up to 4.7 GHz, an Adreno 840 GPU, and a Hexagon NPU capable of up to 100 trillion operations per second for AI tasks. All of that sits inside one tiny chip smaller than your thumbnail. It's basically a mini computer living inside your phone, somehow handling everything without asking for a break. What makes Snapdragon stand out is how balanced it feels. It's fast, yes, but it's also efficient. You can jump between apps, play heavy games, record high-resolution video, and your phone still manages to last through the day. It's not trying to win a single benchmark. It's trying to make sure your phone doesn't feel slow at any point. And most of the time, it succeeds. Gaming is where it really flexes. Snapdragon GPUs are among the best on Android, which is why gaming phones almost always use them. High frame rates, smooth performance, fewer stutters. If your game is running perfectly and you're blaming your teammates instead of your phone, Snapdragon probably did its job. Connectivity is another big win. Qualcomm builds some of the best modems out there, so you get faster 5G, stronger signals, and fewer moments where your phone randomly decides the internet no longer exists. It's one of those things you only notice when it goes wrong, which is exactly why it matters so much. Samsung's relationship with Snapdragon is also worth mentioning. In places like the US, flagship phones like the Galaxy S26 Ultra use Snapdragon chips. In other regions, Samsung sometimes uses its own Exynos processors. Let's just say many users quietly hope for the Snapdragon version. That preference isn't just internet drama. Back with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, Qualcomm used Samsung's factory, and the chip ran hot. 6 months later, they switched the exact same design to TSMC's factory, and suddenly it ran 30% more efficiently. Same chip, different factory. Completely different experience. That moment proved that who builds the chip matters just as much as who designs it. Cooler performance, better efficiency, and fewer moments where your phone feels like it's preparing for takeoff just by opening the camera. Then there's AI, which is now a huge part of modern smartphones. Snapdragon chips include dedicated AI engines that handle things like improving photos, recognizing voices, and running smart features in real time. It's the reason your phone can magically fix a bad photo or understand what you're saying without needing a second to think about it. MediaTek. MediaTek is one of the biggest comeback stories in mobile processors. For years, it was known as the company behind budget phones. If a phone was cheap, there was a good chance it had a MediaTek chip inside. It worked, it was fine, but no one was excited about it. Then over the last few years, MediaTek quietly leveled up, and now it's competing right at the top. The turning point was the Dimensity series, where MediaTek stopped playing it safe and started aiming for flagship performance. Now at the top sits the Dimensity 9500, powering phones like the Vivo X200 Pro. This is not a budget alternative anymore. Built on a 3nm process, it packs a Cortex-X5 Ultra core hitting 4.2 GHz, a 12-core Mali G1 Ultra GPU, and enough AI muscle to handle on-device tasks that used to require cloud processing. It even became the world's first mobile chip to support 120 frames per second ray-traced gaming. That last one is genuinely impressive. Ray tracing on a phone at 120 frames per second would have sounded delusional 2 years ago. What really makes MediaTek stand out is efficiency. These chips are designed to give you strong performance without draining your battery too quickly or heating up like crazy. You can game, scroll, and multitask for longer without your phone turning into something that feels like it belongs in a kitchen instead of your pocket. It's the kind of performance that feels calm and controlled rather than aggressive and power-hungry. Gaming has improved a lot as well. MediaTek's GPUs are now strong enough to handle demanding games smoothly, often getting very close to Snapdragon. In real-world use, most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference unless they're staring at benchmarks all day. And even then, your battery might quietly outlast your friend's phone, which is a nice bonus. Camera and AI performance are also a big focus. The Dimensity 9500 handles high-resolution sensors, image processing, and real-time enhancements very well. That's why phones like the Vivo X19 Pro can deliver excellent photos and videos. A lot of the smart features you see, like scene detection or instant photo improvements, are happening directly on the chip while you just tap the shutter button. Another big advantage is value. MediaTek often delivers performance that's very close to top Snapdragon chips, but at a lower cost. That allows brands to build powerful phones without pushing prices too high. You end up getting flagship-level performance without feeling like you paid flagship-level money, which is always a win. There are still a few trade-offs. MediaTek doesn't always have the same long-term reputation or optimization in every app compared to Snapdragon, and in some regions, people still see it as the second option, but that perception is slowly changing, especially as the performance gap keeps shrinking. Apple is the company that looked at mobile processors and said, we'll just build our own. And somehow that decision worked out a little too well. It all started back in 2010 with the A4 chip. And since then, Apple has been designing its own silicon specifically for iPhones. Because Apple controls both the hardware and the software, everything is tightly optimized. The chip, iOS, and apps all work together like they actually talk to each other beforehand, which is why iPhones feel smooth even after years of use. At the top right now is the A19 Pro, found in the iPhone 17 Pro. Built on a 3nm process with a 6-core CPU hitting 4.26 GHz, a 6-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine. This chip is built for speed, and not just benchmark speed, but real-world speed. Apple still leads in single-core performance, which basically means everyday things like opening apps, scrolling, and switching tasks feel instant. You tap something and it's already open, sometimes faster than your brain can process what just happened. Apple's GPU has also become seriously powerful. Gaming on iPhones is no longer a joke, with support for advanced graphics features like ray tracing. It's getting to the point where your phone can handle games that used to belong on consoles, which is great until your storage fills up after installing 2 of them. Where Apple really stands out is efficiency. The A19 Pro delivers top-tier performance without draining the battery like crazy. Instead of just throwing power at everything, it uses it smartly. So your phone stays fast, cool, and lasts longer, which is impressive considering how much it's doing in the background. Then there's the Neural Engine, Apple's dedicated AI hardware, now packing 16 cores with 4 times the AI compute of the previous generation. It handles things like Face ID, photo processing, voice recognition, and all those smart features that feel instant. When your phone magically fixes a photo or recognizes your face in the dark, that's the chip doing a lot of work very quickly while pretending it's no big deal. Camera performance is also tightly linked to the chip. Apple's image processing focuses on consistency, so photos and videos look good every time without you needing to adjust anything. It's less about huge numbers and more about results that just work, which is why people trust iPhones for video so much. The only real limitation is that Apple chips only exist inside Apple devices. No Android, no mixing and matching. You're fully in Apple's ecosystem, which works great as long as you're okay staying there. Google took a very different path compared to other chip makers. Instead of chasing raw speed and benchmark scores, it focused on making phones feel smarter and more helpful in everyday use. That idea started with the first Tensor chip in 2021, and it continues with the Tensor G5 expected in phones like the Pixel 10. Quick question, which mobile processor is actually inside the phone you're using right now? Drop it in the comments. And if you're finally understanding what all these chip names actually mean, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel. The goal with Tensor has always been simple. Rather than building the fastest chip on paper, Google builds a chip that works perfectly with its software. Since Google makes Android and Pixel phones, everything is designed to work together smoothly. The G5 is also a big deal for another reason. It's the first Tensor chip built by TSMC instead of Samsung. Previous Tensor chips had a reputation for running warm, and switching to TSMC 3's nanometer process helped fix that. Sound familiar? It's the same factory switch that saved Qualcomm's Snapdragon a few years earlier. The result is a phone that feels clean, responsive, and surprisingly intelligent in ways you actually notice. With the Tensor G5, Google claims 34% faster CPU performance and up to 60% more powerful AI processing compared to the G4. In daily use, that translates to apps opening quickly, multitasking feeling smooth, and the phone handling almost everything without hesitation. It may not win every benchmark, but in real life, it rarely feels slow. It's the kind of performance where you stop thinking about specs and just use the phone, which is honestly the whole point. Where Tensor really stands out is AI. This is where Google goes all in. Features like real-time voice typing, call screening, live translation, and smart replies all rely on Tensor's AI hardware. Your phone can understand what you're saying, filter spam calls, and even translate conversations on the spot. It's basically doing a lot of thinking so you don't have to, which is great on days when your brain is still loading. Camera performance is another major strength. Pixel phones are known for their photography, and Tensor plays a big role in that. Every time you take a photo, the chip is adjusting lighting, colors, and details instantly. You press the shutter, and the phone has already fixed half your mistakes. It's like having a tiny photo editor inside your phone that quietly saves your bad photography decisions. There are some trade-offs. Tensor chips are not the absolute fastest, and under heavy use, they can run a bit warmer than competitors. But that's because they're constantly working on AI tasks in the background, doing more than just running apps. It's less about raw power and more about being smart with it. Huawei Kirin. Huawei is one of the few companies that decided to build everything in-house, including its own mobile processors. Under its high silicon division, Huawei created the Kirin lineup, which once competed directly with Snapdragon and Apple chips at the high end. Before 2020, Kirin chips were a serious contender. They powered flagship Huawei phones with strong performance, good efficiency, and advanced AI features. Then things got complicated. In 2020, US trade restrictions cut Huawei off from TSMC, the world's most advanced chip manufacturer. Overnight, Huawei lost the ability to build flagship-grade processors. For a few years, it looked like Kirin might disappear completely. Instead, Huawei turned to China's SMIC and started building chips using older manufacturing techniques. No extreme ultraviolet lithography, no cutting-edge 3nm nodes, just raw engineering workarounds. I personally think this is one of the most underrated stories in tech right now. Whether you agree with the politics or not, building a competitive smartphone chip without access to the world's best tools is genuinely impressive. But Huawei didn't stop. With the Kirin 9030, found in the Huawei Mate 80 Pro, the company's making a comeback. The Kirin 9030 uses SMIC's N+3 process, effectively somewhere between 7nm and 5nm by industry standards. It can't match TSMC's 3nm chips on raw efficiency, but Huawei compensates with a 9-core design, a Maliun 935 GPU, and tight software optimization through Harmony OS. It's not just about performance anymore, it's about control and independence. In terms of performance, modern Kirin chips aim to deliver a smooth everyday experience rather than chasing top benchmark scores. Apps run well, multitasking feels stable, and the overall experience is consistent. It may not always beat Snapdragon or Apple in raw power, but it holds its own in real-world use. One of Kirin's biggest strengths is AI. Huawei has invested heavily in on-device AI processing, which helps with things like camera enhancements, voice features, and system optimization. The chip works closely with Huawei's software to keep everything running efficiently in the background. Camera performance has always been a highlight for Huawei phones, and Kirin plays a big role here. Image processing is strong, especially in areas like low-light photography and zoom. Huawei phones often push camera hardware further than most brands, and the chip is designed to support that. There are still limitations. Because of ongoing restrictions, Kirin chips don't always have access to the latest manufacturing processes or the newest technology. That can affect performance, efficiency, and connectivity compared to competitors. But despite that, Huawei has managed to stay competitive, which is impressive on its own.
Samsung Exynos.
Samsung is one of the few companies that doesn't just make phones. They make the brains inside them too. That's where Exynos comes in. These chips power many Samsung devices, especially outside the US, and have been duking it out with Snapdragon for years. Think of Exynos as Samsung's attempt at do it ourselves and make it work. With the Exynos 2500 found in phones like the Galaxy Z Flip 7, Samsung is doubling down on performance, efficiency, and smooth day-to-day operation. Exynos aims to deliver a balanced experience across CPU, GPU, AI, and connectivity, so your phone runs like a well-rehearsed orchestra rather than a garage band. Performance has always been a roller coaster. Some Exynos generations felt like Ferraris, others like rusty tricycles. The 2500 was originally supposed to power the Galaxy S25, but Samsung's own 3nm factory struggled with yields. Reports put them below 20% at one point. So the S25 went full Snapdragon worldwide, and the Exynos 2500 made its debut in the Z Flip 7 instead. It's Samsung's first chip built on their gate all-around transistor design, packing a 10-core CPU and an AMD-powered Xclipse 950 GPU. The 2500 is trying to prove the roller coaster is finally over, focusing on stable performance and efficiency so your apps don't stutter and your battery doesn't melt. Graphics are leveling up too. Samsung partnered with AMD for GPU tech, which means better visuals and smoother gaming. You can finally enjoy high-end mobile games without wondering if your phone is silently judging your skill level. AI is another star here. Exynos chips have dedicated AI hardware powering everything from camera magic to voice recognition. Your phone is basically silently multitasking like a caffeinated octopus, enhancing photos, optimizing apps, and keeping everything running smoothly without you lifting a finger. One big perk is integration. Samsung controls both hardware and software, letting it optimize foldable phones and unique devices like the Z Flip 7. That means fewer glitches, better battery life, and a phone that actually seems to get what it's doing. Of course, Exynos still carries a bit of baggage. Some users swear Snapdragon versions still outperform it, and that perception is hard to shake, even when Exynos is actually keeping up. I honestly think the Z Flip 7 is the perfect proving ground for Exynos. If it runs cool and smooth in a foldable where heat management is already brutal, that says more than any benchmark. And that's every major mobile processor, from Qualcomm's raw power to MediaTek's efficiency, Apple's tight integration, Google's AI obsession, Huawei's comeback, and Samsung's foldable ambitions. Each one has its strengths, quirks, and a very different philosophy on what a smartphone chip should actually do. Which processor is inside your phone right now, and would you switch? Drop it in the comments. If this finally made mobile chips make sense, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now here's the thing, you just learned what processors power your phone, but these chips are all built on different architectures. ARM, Apple Silicon, RISC designs, custom cores. And those architectures don't just affect phones. They power laptops, gaming consoles, servers, and even self-driving cars. Most people have no idea why ARM is in your phone while x86 is in your laptop, or what makes Apple Silicon so different from everything else. That's exactly what we're covering next. Every CPU architecture explained simply, what each one actually does, why it matters, and which ones are quietly running the entire tech world behind the scenes. Click the video on screen right now, and I'll see you there.